welcome to the Four Seasons. I'm your host, Ken Johnson. So today we're supposed to be talking about publishing and book awards. And that's what we'll be doing, but there's some other things I want to talk about, and we'll see how that plays out. Already I've talked a lot about publishing and what's needed. So once you've got your manuscript written, you've got it edited, now you've got to make some choices. So you need to find out if you want to try to do the traditional route, do the indie publishing route, do the self-publishing route, which is also now considered indie, or something in between, which now is also being called indie. The first route, what you'll have to do is you'll need to get an agent if you're going to do traditional route. Now, the traditional route, it's the oldest one, and it has the most hurdles, and it has the least payoffs. Most authors that I know that have tried the traditional route ended up being dumped off by agents on small publishing houses or mid-sized publishing houses. So they rarely, if ever, made it to a major publisher, and if they did, they were not happy. So that's something to be aware of. If you do an agent, expect up to 3 years to get an agent, because just like publishers, there's agents that they specialize in things, and they will have times that they accept manuscripts and new clients, and other times that they won't, because it's a business, and business is cyclical. And any small business person will tell you there's times when I'm begging for business, and then there's going to be times that I can't handle any more business. And that's just the nature of business itself. And so a lot of authors have never owned a business, so they don't understand this. And so you need to be aware of how business works, because being an author, as I said before, is a business. So take some business classes and learn about the business aspect. Now, if you get on with a major publisher, great. I'm happy for you. Then there's the other, which is the indie publishers. Indie publishers, we used to call them the big five, but now I think a few of them have bought each other out, and they're like 4 or 3 or whatever. And they all have hundreds of imprints. So you got thousands of different book imprints that are only owned by a handful of publishers. And so everybody says, oh, I'm with this one, or I'm with that one. No, you're with an imprint. For instance, Anthony Bourdain, he had his own imprint, which was phenomenal for an author. Sadly, he gave everything he had up. It's unfortunate, but I guess his pain was too much for him to handle. And so he committed suicide. But if you get into an imprint, that's great. But just realize that the advances that you get, you pay that back by how many books you sell. And so you're still going to have to pay that money back. And anytime that book is returned, it comes out of your royalties as well. So be aware of that. Get you a attorney that deals in entertainment law, specifically an attorney that deals with publishing and authors. Because everybody wants the movie deal. Well, guess what? If they buy your book and turn it into a script, 9 times out of 10, actually more than that. So like 99,999 out of 1 million. Yeah, it's that kind of odds that they're just going to buy the book rights. So that means that even though your name is on the book, you get no royalties. You get nothing. And so all these books that you see that, after a big movie deal comes out, well, guess what? The author gets shafted. They did not consult with an attorney. And so they don't get the royalties. And a lot of times they don't get a chance to make additional books in the series. Or if they do, there's limits because the movie production companies are going to put those limits in place. So having an attorney is every step of the way from the time, really before you sign with an agent until the day you die. If you're going to be an author, an entertainment lawyer is necessary. Let's say that you decide that you're going to go the indie route. Well, there's some big publishing houses that are indie publishers, and they're going to require you to have an agent anyway. They've just gotten that big. Some of them won't, but they're going to require you to show proof that you have the chops as an author. And then you got smaller ones that they'll take on a risk because they're just small and they're trying to get big. And they're learning just as you're learning. And they may know as much or more or even little than what you know. You never know. It's a crapshoot. But and you may not even get the edits. Remember the edits that we talked about in the other episode about the structural edits and all these marketing edits and all that? You may not get that. So just be aware of that when you sign up for one of these. I can't say that the payoffs are any better. I know a gentleman, we're both into restorative justice, and he was gung-ho about getting with this publisher. And they gave him like 9% royalty. It's just a small amount of money. And I'm like, do you realize how much money you're losing? He said, but I've got this really well-known restorative justice person that's going to be my editor. I'm like, that does nothing for you. That person is in Great Britain. They don't know anything about America. Yes, they know about restorative justice, but it's not going to help you with issues that we deal about in America. And I don't see you taking that big of a hit as being just compensation for that editor. I don't think that editor was that valuable, but that's what he wanted, so he got it. I hope he's happy. When I was with a indie publisher, I got 25% royalties. Now again, royalties, as we talked about before, that does not mean that you get 25% off of the sales price of the book. You get 25% of the markdown discount. So if it's $10 and they give a 40% discount, that 25% is not based off of $10. It is based off of $6. And then if a bookstore, because everybody wants to get into a bookstore, I don't know why. Bookstores are so onerous. But if you get into a bookstore, guess what? They're going to return those books if they don't sell. The distributor's going to charge the publisher. Basically, you're going to pay almost double to take back a book that you sold once shipping and all the restocking fees and everything are in. And guess where some of those monies are going to be recouped? Out of your royalty check. So that is something to think about. And again, it is a crapshoot with an indie publisher because they may know more, they may know less, they may be geared to what you're doing, they may not be geared. So you got to really be careful with these publishers. And some of them are in over their heads. They're chin deep in debt. And a lot of the authors don't get paid. And so you need to be aware of that. Of course, there is the self-publishing route, and that is a route that a lot of people take. I do not recommend Amazon. Everybody wants to do Amazon. And so some people think, well, because I said don't do Amazon, by Amazon I mean KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, which every so often they change their name. They'll restructure. It's just a business move to eliminate liability. So you have all these. One was Create Space, and they've had all these different names, and they'll switch. It'll no longer be KDP in a little while. They'll switch over and they'll create a new name. And then whenever you got a claim against them, they say, well, it's out of business. And you're not with this new publisher. But the way Amazon or KDP works it is that KDP is actually your publisher of record. So unless you own the ISBN number and you file personally for the LCCN number and the copyright, they are your publisher. And so that gives them authority to do things with your book that you may not know they have the authority to do. So I don't trust Amazon. I've never liked Amazon. And I do not recommend going with KDP. Ingram Spark, which is a subgroup, a sub-company of the Ingram company, which is the largest distributor in the world. They're trying to do what Amazon does. And so now they're allowing people to self-publish with them. Just as with KDP, I am telling you, don't do this with Ingram Spark. They got too big for their britches. I don't trust them. They would be your publisher of record, and again, I just don't trust them. They've gotten greedy. Even their own employees have told me they've gotten too big, that there needs to be competition, and there's not. So don't do it. Instead, you can distribute with not KDP. I still wouldn't recommend them for distribution, but you can distribute with Ingram Spark. And I'm fine with that. But you need to have your own LCCN metadata that you put in with the Library of Congress. You need to do your own ISBN number that you purchase from Bowker and Bowker only. And then you file the copyright. That way you're totally in charge. But as we talked about before, being totally in charge means that you also have to bear all the costs. And you have to know what you're doing. So if you don't know anything about publishing, this is not the route for you. Even if you think it is, it's not. Get with an indie publisher, do something else, but don't try to do it yourself. I see too many authors that they don't even know what they don't know. And then they're bemoaning and griping. And it's like, look, it's your own ignorance and inability to learn, and unwillingness to learn, not inability. They have the ability, they just don't want to learn. And so then they gripe about everything in the world being against them, but it's their own selves. It's a huge amount of responsibility to self-publish. And it's not right for everyone, even though that tends to be the fad right now. Another issue or another way of doing it is vanity presses. And now they're considered to be indie publishers, what they call hybrid publishing. Generally speaking, I consider that to be garbage. I do not recommend it. I do know some people that do it. I do know some people that are happy with it. If it's done right, you can do quite well with it. Problem is, most people won't do it right. For instance, I dog cuss Author House. I dog cuss them every step of the way. Their metadata that they put in about the books is garbage. They're just, I cannot say many good things about them. But they have a wonderful program for warehousing books. They have a wonderful discount for buying books. And they want authors to actually do what authors are expected to do and sell a bunch of books. So the author pays to have the book published and then has to buy the book, but they provide the assistance. Now, their assistance at times I think is crap. I think that you need, if you're going to do this, that you need to have at least somebody that's a graphic designer to consult with you to say what they're producing is good quality. If you're going to pay for them to do it, you need to have it well edited and have somebody that's consultant with formatting and everything to make sure that their crew in the Philippines does what they're supposed to do, because you're dealing with people in a third world country that they're only being told what their boss says. So they don't care about industry standards. There's not much competition in the Philippines. That they're going to do what the money says to do. And they're not going to be looking out for you. So you need to have consultants that you hire for every step of the process to make sure you're took care of. Have that contract looked over by an attorney. But if you need the help, it can be cheaper, and their warehousing and their book buybacks, or not buybacks, but the author purchase discounts are really, really good. So as much as I dog cuss them, even they have benefits. So that's something to look into. I find that if you're retired and you really don't know a lot about technology, and you kind of feel in the weeds, but you don't want to go through a publisher, you still want to go out and sell. Maybe you have a sales background, so you know you can sell the book and you can market the book, and you've already done that niche marketing plan and you know exactly where you're going to go. Then maybe a hybrid publisher, a vanity publisher, is the route for you. Just make sure that they warehouse the books for free so that you can order thousands. Make sure you get a very good discount for your book purchases so you can order in the thousands. Make sure that they do free drop shipping so that you don't have to pay shipping. Otherwise, you'll have to figure out how all that's going to be worked out and do the shipping. And then that way you can get with a jobber and you can do all the other things we talked about with marketing. And you can do quite well. And it may be the right route. So just because I say I don't like something doesn't mean that I'm talking generalities. It may be the right thing for you. Now let's talk about book awards. As I've said before, there is a lack of vetting. And book awards give vetting. But even book awards, not all book awards are the same. So I've won numerous awards, and those decals, as I said before, are worth their weight in gold. I told the story about Leanne Mancini when I was in charge of a book awards program, and how she used those decals to get into every Christian bookstore that she could, and she ended up buying up more decals than what we had. We had to order more just to fulfill her order, and she killed it. She slayed it. But she had a sound business plan that it did involve bookstores, and it worked out for her. So that is something that I highly recommend. But not all book awards programs are the same. I like ones that have a awards banquet and they have some type of social media component, because as I've as I recommend to my clients, I tell them, go to these awards banquets, bring your book, and then when they put the medal on you, be dressed in the nines, unless you got some type of theme, like you write pirate books, and dress as a pirate. Or if you write a Christmas book, dress up as Santa Claus or an elf or something festive. And then have everybody that's an award winner with you. Get a list of all the award winners, because they'll announce them beforehand. They won't tell what the award is usually, but they'll give the names. Look them up. Hunt down those big ones and say, can I get a picture with you? And bring somebody with you. Pay the extra money to have your own camera crew and have somebody taking down their name, their social media contact, and then take a picture with them, tag them on all their social media platforms, give them your information, have a card or something other, and say, here you go, here's my information. And then that way, when you are tagged in or you're part of their social media posts, well, you're kind of gleaning from their group for free. So it's not underhanded, but it is what networking is all about. You're using each other's resources to benefit yourself, because even though that's a big name person, there might be somebody on your social media list of friends that they haven't reached yet. And so they might get a sale and you might get a sale, and it works out. And that's something you need to realize as an author, is to network. But those pictures, save them and release them sporadically throughout the year. Use them for all sorts of stuff. So of course you automatically want to do posts about, you winning. You want to have all those pictures in real time posting. You want to do videos where you go live and you're talking about how excited you are, how wonderful it is. All these people, name some names, be a name dropper. Say, I just met such and such. I'm about to post a picture in a few minutes of us talking, and he said this or she said that. And really pump it up, what we call creating buzz. Then throughout the year, when things get slow, post some pictures. Say, oh, I'm just reminiscing about this awards banquet. It's getting about that time. I got a new book coming out. I'm thinking that maybe I have a chance of winning this year as well. Hopefully I'll get to see such and such. You're still using that to create buzz, create content, because social media is all about content. And as much as I dislike social media, you have to have a social media presence. You're still going to be doing traditional route, but social media is another avenue, another way of generating income on the side. And it also builds that presence, that notoriety, because anybody that's going to research you for speaking fees and things of that nature, they're going to look at your social media. So always make sure that if you do a speech or whatever, you got somebody videoing you, do snippets of that, have a good page set up that really represents you well, and then have all those award photos as well, so that they got that vetting. And then you include that in any brochures, like if you're doing school programs where you try and sell schools, you can do that as well. So the last part that I want to talk about is really the reason why I want to do this video. You need to have an ulterior motive that isn't money. I think this has been the hardest thing for me to grapple with. When I first started writing, it wasn't for money. I learned very quickly that if I was going to be in the publishing world, I had to make money. That is something that's required. But it wasn't about money. I really wrote it because I was trying to save children from being arrested in schools. Just in Florida alone, we arrest 58,000 children every year in the school system, usually right before standardized testing. And this is a national crisis that no one seems to care about. And I said to myself, I've always had a big voice. I need to do something. And a good friend of mine, great author, Stephanie Osborne, when I was moaning about my situation, she said, why not write a book? You can hit more people than you'd ever do just on your own. You could reach people in ways that you never thought. And so that became my cause, saving children. Of course, I had to be a business person, but I had a cause. You need to have a cause. People need champions. People need inspiration. People need rest in times of worry and grief. It doesn't matter what you write, be it science fiction, nonfiction, fantasy. It really doesn't matter. Authors hold a very sacred role in our society. You know, it's in the old days we had kings, and then right under the kings and the royalty was the religious leaders. But also with the religious leaders were the entertainers. You think about all the knights that Queen Elizabeth has knighted. A really large amount of those people are authors and actors and entertainers. That is telling. Once you start winning book awards, once you start speaking publicly, paid speaking engagements, you're not giving away anything. Your people are paying you a fee to talk to all these schools or all these groups. People start to see you differently. You become something more to them. And you need to have a cause. You need to make sure that you're aware of what you're doing and that you have a purpose. I never write a book without a purpose. When I wrote my book, A Quick Guide to Archetypes and Allegory, it was because I wanted to champion good storytelling. Not because, well, it was because, in fact, that a lot of the stories being published today are crap. But it was also because I have lived this sacred role. And I want authors to put their best foot forward. And so that became my cause. It wasn't so much the good storytelling as I wanted authors to be the best they could possibly be so that they could affect the most amount of people. You know, I try not to talk a lot about theology. I still do, but I try not to. And there's something about being an author. It's weird. If you've never been an author, it's weird. And I remember I used to have a boys ministry that I dealt with. And I'll tell you two things I told them. One time, I was at a family get-together and I fell asleep. Mainly because I was fed up. I was just fed up. And so I just fell asleep. And my wife woke me up. She said, "Wake up, they want to talk to the author." And she was all happy for me. And I looked to her and told her, I've always been that person. Nothing has changed. I've always been me. They want to talk to a perception of me, and that didn't interest me. And that goes to the second thing I told the boys. Because if you're a Christian and you believe what the book says, the Bible, then we're all kings and queens. And more than that, we have an inheritance to a kingdom. And that's where our authority comes from. And so I would tell the boys that when you go out into the community, put on a metaphorical cloak of humility and be a servant to people. Because your kindness is where they'll see God. Your love and compassion is where they'll see God. You don't have to talk about God. They'll see it in you. But when evil rises, and you must confront it, pull that cloak off and reveal to the evil, that thing you're fighting, that you are a king, that you're an heir to the kingdom. And when people are looking for safety, the safest place is right behind you. Authorship, to some degree, is that way. It's not equivalent, because for me, my faith is more than authorship. But it's very much the same. People are going to see you in different ways. You've always been who you are. So if you're an author and you have fame, that was always who you were supposed to be to begin with. Nothing in the world can stop that, because that's what it was. You are still you, and it should not change you one bit. But at the same token, it gives you immense authority to take action. And so if you have an opportunity to improve upon life for some cause that you believe in, take it. For me, I was only worried about the children in Santa Rosa County, Florida. And quickly it became the children in Florida. And then it became children in the United States. And it kept growing the more I spoke, because my audience got bigger and bigger. Until one day, my publisher called me up and said, "Who do you know in Slovenia?" I'm like, "Where is Slovenia?" We had to look it up on a map. I was already in Europe. People were buying in Slovenia my books. People were buying my books in Great Britain. They were buying it in Australia and New Zealand. Think about it. All these places all over the world, they were not even in my thoughts. And yet I was touching them. That is the benefit of being an author. And so with that genuineness, I've always done this deal where I say, please, purchase from my friends. Or what. I'm no longer doing that. They know I love them. They know I care for them. People know what I do. I'm not going to advertise. I'm just going to talk to you. And I hope that you like my messages. I hope that inspires you. And we're going to take a different route with this, and I'm going to stick to my guns. We're going to talk about the 4 C's. And I think that we have a tremendous opportunity with this channel to do some good. And that's what I want to do. So I'm going to show you things that are simple. I'm going to show you things that are fun. We're going to talk about some issues from time to time. Since it's right before Thanksgiving, I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Thank you for watching. I'll see you soon.